Welcome. I am the loud little ducky. Today we are going to start part one in the case review of Owens versus Lone Cactus Construction. It's also known as Lone Cactus Fence and Welding, and it is in Arizona. So let's dive into this case. So this was filed September 27th of 2021 in the Superior Court of Arizona in Maricopa County, and plaintiff is Owens, and the defendant is Sean Blank at Lone Cactus Construction, LLC. And this is a civil complaint as well as an amended complaint. Plaintiff hereby submits this complaint against defendant or defendants and alleges the following: jurisdiction and venue. The Superior Court in Maricopa County has the legal authority to hear and decide this case because, and then it says check all the boxes that are true. So she checked the value of this case exceeds over $10,000. She checked replevin or other monumentary remedies will take place in Maricopa County, as well as the plaintiff resides in Maricopa County, the defendant resides in Maricopa County, and the defendant does business in Maricopa County, as well as checking the events, actions, or debts subject of this complainant occurred in Maricopa County, and there are no other reasons. Discovery tier. Pursuant to Arizona Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 26.2C3, the court should assign my case to the following tier based on the amount of damages I request. And she checked Tier 2, actions claiming more than $50,000 and less than $300,000 in damages, or actions claiming monumentary relief. So there are three tiers. She checked number 2, the plaintiff of this case, the defendant of this case, which we went over. According to Owens, here are the statements of facts and breach. The plaintiffs in this case are Laura Owens, blank, blank, aka blank, who hired Sean and Lone Cactus Construction to work on an existing horse facilities in Scottsdale, Arizona. They buy and sell horses through Quartet Farms, LLC. From now on, the plaintiffs will be referred to as plaintiff. The defendants in this case are Sean, which is the owner of the Lone Cactus Construction, LLC, and just Lone Cactus Construction. So the owner is himself, Sean, and the company. A contracting company engaged in the practice of remodeling, specifically with horse properties and the specialized products and structures associated with these entities. From now on, the defendants will be referred to as defendant. On or around December 26, 2020, so the day after Christmas, the plaintiff asked for bids from contractors who were familiar with specialized products needed to complete the job, which included stable comfort stall mats, True-Tex footing, arena clean, and quick feed horse feeders. The defendant's company was the only company that submitted a bid and indicated they had experience with the specialized product as well as working on projects with hunter and jumper businesses of the caliber of the plaintiff and were awarded the contract. It was later discovered that the defendant had no experience with arena clean, True-Tex footing, quick feed, or stable comfort mats, and that the defendant deliberately misrepresented his knowledge and expertise in those specialized areas to falsely and fraudulently induce plaintiff into entering a contract with him. That's what she says. That is not the phrasing I meant. But this is what Owens says. He falsely and fraudulently induced her into a contract. It was also later discovered that the defendant, when asked if permits were needed, falsely and fraudulently assured the plaintiff no permits were needed for the job. Plaintiffs, relying on his assurances and false expertise, found out later that permits were needed, and when they confronted the defendant, his response was to double his initial estimate after work had begun. The original quote from the defendant was $7,320, which was to include the barn, arena, tack room, wash rack, and materials. The timeline given for the completion of the contract was 4 days to begin early February, with completion date on or before February 16th. Defendant was aware that the horses would be arriving at this time and the necessity for the work to be completed. So it needed to be completed. Now this is taking place at the end of so she's talking about this at the end of 2020, and the job was going to begin in February 2021. And I don't know if y'all remember, but around this time, and I'm not saying this is something that happened with him, but a lot of things were on like back order, or it was taking longer for houses and businesses and everything to be built because lumber wasn't just easily available. The cost had gone up. The shipping was taking forever. I mean, everything was taking so much longer. And so I don't know if that had to do with some of the issues that happened in this case, is some of the stuff that was going on in the world at the time. And so, all right. The final payment of $7,906 was requested by the defendant on April 6 because he falsely assured the plaintiff that the project would be completed by the end of the day. After payment was made, the defendant then stated he would need until the end of the week to complete the contract. The work was never completed in full by the defendant. Okay, so, all right, let's go back. Original quote was $7,320. Okay, and then the final payment of $7,906 was requested. Okay, so that's already more than the original quote. The final amount paid to the defendant for non-completed work was $34,508. Okay, so was the $7,320 like a down payment or what? I thought 7,000 was an odd number. So let's go ahead. The cost to the plaintiff due to the defendant misrepresentation, fraud, and negligence included the following. Due to poor quality of the work, defendant's pony Tiffany contracted laminitis while on the stable comfort mats that were installed by the defendant. On or around May 18th, it was determined that the instructions for installation of the stable comfort mats had not been followed and that the mats were dangerous. The defendant reached out to blank, one of the limited number of stable comfort dealers in North America. He indicated that it was the worst installation he had seen in 20 years. I would like to see that written out. C. The defendant was given a second chance to install the mats. The defendant refused to oversee the work and did not communicate with Mr. Blank to ensure, and I don't know what all, to ensure that blah, 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 told the quick feed feeders were more difficult to install than initially thought. and that the battery boxes would need to be fabricated, which was not done. This was drawn out for weeks. Finally, the plaintiff had to hire a handyman on for $419, and the correct boxes were purchased on Amazon for $12 each. It was discovered that Mr. Blank storage of these products during the construction rendered the feeders damaged and unusable. E, the defendant, was asked repeatedly to contact the president of the Blank Engineering Company, Blank, for instructions. The defendant never contacted him. It was later discovered that the defendant had no experience with Arena Clean, TruTex footing, Quick Feed, or Stable Comfort mats, and had grossly misrepresented his skill set and expertise in December to falsely induce the plaintiff into granting him the contract. The repeated delays and negligent installation of the footing and the additives caused the plaintiff's horses to lose fitness due to their inability to work in the arena. Additionally, the plaintiffs could not show their horses for sale at their facility due to there being no arena to ride. Due to the negligence of the defendant, the plaintiff has a business and has sold horses for as high as $150,000. The sale business was unable to operate. So they're saying they could not operate their business due to this company's misrepresentation and continuing working. The plaintiff inquired on several occasions if the defendant wanted them to hire someone else to complete the job, yet they were told each day that it was going to be done the following or the next day, thus costing more waste and delay and expense to the plaintiff. The TruTex footing bags did not get opened by defendant until April 27th, long after the expected date of the project's completeness, because he said it was going to take him 4 days, and that was going to be starting in February, and now we're into April. So yeah, that's way past the estimate. The installation instructions were not followed and the wrong equipment was used to install it. This resulted in the footing being unusable and riding being suspended until it was fixed. In addition, the defendant was asked via numerous written communications when the extremely strong canvas backing that he had ordered was going to be installed. The defendant repeatedly told plaintiff today, each time, yet the day of installation never came. In a desperate attempt to keep horses safe from the elements, the plaintiff ordered a canvas backing on June 5th, which blew down and could have caused a tragedy. On May 30th, the day when the defendant allegedly sprayed Arena Clean, the plaintiff discovered that not all of it was used and that the remaining amount had been taken away on defendant's trailer. The defendant had originally instructed the plaintiff to get enough for a 110 by 140 degree ring or inch ring. The plaintiff's rings are 110 long by 80, or maybe it's feet. No, it's feet. Sorry. The text is just really small here. At the very widest part, most of it being around 50 to 60 feet. The plaintiff ended up with very dry ring when it should have been soaked, given how much extra was purchased. Additionally, the Arena Clean was carelessly spread on the plaintiff's dividing wall, eucalyptus trees, stall intact trunks, covering them with oil. It was discovered with witnesses, which I'm sure is mom and dad, that several items were taken by Sean blank and blank, including a drum of Arena Clean, which was approximately $508. The defendant was told many times that the horses were getting injured because of the quality of welding that was done. The workers even admitted to being new to welding and that they were making many errors due to inexperience. The original foreman on the project was fired. The plaintiff was told by one of the defendant's crew members that a big reason for the foreman's termination was that he had made many mistakes on our property. These admitted errors resulted in one of the plaintiff's horses getting his hoof caught in the fence, and 4 of the horses have had cuts that will likely scar due to the wire not being filed down. The defendant cut a large section of fencing out where the cross tie was installed, causing plaintiff's most valuable horse to escape through the area where the fencing had once been and became stuck in a very small gap between the plaintiff's arena fence and their neighbor's wall. This could have caused major injury, if not death, due to the negligence on the part of the defendant. And we will get to see these in the next few parts that we do on this case. There is so many exhibits to go through, and the injuries we will get to see. Number 11, the defendant engaged in harassment and trespassing. The plaintiff warned the defendant on several occasions to cease verbal conversations and kept to texting or emails so that there would be written trail of communications. The defendant was told not to return to the property. However, on the morning of June 19th, still way after February, the defendant showed up at the plaintiff's property at 6:50 a.m. and entered the horse facility through their driveway. There were several workers on the grounds who had asked the defendant what he was doing. He stated that he was looking for blank. The workers instructed the defendant to leave, but he did not comply and instead left the horse facility to ring the doorbell at the plaintiff's residence. The defendant claimed he wanted to discuss with the plaintiff invoice questions. During the conversations regarding how the defendant was going to reimburse the plaintiff for damages incurred, the defendant admitted fault and explained that he would pay the requested at time $33,447.57 by June 21st. The plaintiff gave the defendant's deadline of 5 p.m. on June 25th, yet payment was not received. The defendant was advised that fees would continue to mount over the weekend and that the plaintiff would investigate his work to determine if further charges would be incurred. The defendant did not acknowledge this. On June 28th, payment request for $44,441.43 was requested after further evidence was gathered. The defendant has ignored all requests for updates in regards to payment demands to see the contract. Multiple requests for defendant's insurance companies information were also unanswered. The registrar of the contract was contacted and a complaint was filed by July 7th. Plaintiff was informed by blank, an investigator, that the ROC would not be the best route to go in order to get a reimbursement. He explained that the ROC can only get contractors to fix or complete work, not reimburse for poor work. Given the many chances given to the defendant to complete the project correctly, in addition to his trespassing and harassment, more explained below, it was determined that civil litigation was the best route. And then it says applicable law supporting claims. Claim 1, the promissory note, terms not met. Claim 2, ARS 321158, contract requirements, provisions of documents and receipts, all contract signings signed under duress and never received a copy. Ma'am, stop. You did not sign this under duress. Okay. Claim 3, ARS 44-1521, the plaintiff selected the defendant as a contractor because falsely claimed expertise in installations of cable comfort mats, arena clean, and True-Tex footing, fraud, deception, and false pretenses. Now that might have happened. That's why we're going to look at this case. Because as we did in the other one, while she may be in the wrong on other cases, that doesn't mean she's in the wrong on every single case. So that's why we are going to look at this with our own eyes. Claim 4, breach of contract, acted in bad faith. Claim 5, ARS 12552, construction defects, foundation, stalls, arena, fencing, roofing. The defendant was given many opportunities to fix these things. The materials purchased by the defendant have proven to be subpar and defective. Claim 6, recoverable damages, direct damages, and economic waste. The plaintiff had to purchase new materials and hire new laborers to redo the work that was supposed to be completed by the defendant and continues to need to do so. Claim 7, ARS 12552, faulty workmanship. The construction did not hold up well to monsoons and was completely flooded each time one happened. Yep, they're talking about monsoons. The contractor was negligent and had knowledge of this. The barn was built inside out, with the poles made to hold up the barn being placed outside rather than inside of the roof structure. The workmanship on all specialty products was or is incorrect. Claim 8, ARS 32-1169, building permits, local proof of valid license, violation, gave the estimate knowing that the quote provided for the work would not be permitted. The plaintiff asked if permits should be applied in December ahead of work and was told that they were unnecessary by the defendant. Claim 9, ARS 12341, recovery of all legal fees. Claim 10, emotional damage. Everything causes her emotional damage. The defendant, knowing in serious health issues that the blank family, Owens family, was facing, claimed he would complete work quickly as to not add more stress in their lives. He delayed work, fabricated 50-plus stories for the delays, and repeatedly said he would show up to work when he did not. This meant that the plaintiff's schedule was determined by the defendant. In addition, the stress of needing to find stabling for Quartet Farms LLC's horses was in the bowl. The defendant trespassed and attempted to find the plaintiff, Laura Owens, in her casita on June 19th at 6:50 a.m. after she told him not to come on the property. This harassment attempt frightened Miss Owens and caused insomnia and anxiety. Okay, whatever. The plaintiff also felt unsafe after he knocked on her door, at the same time without any notice of his impending visit. Okay, then we have injuries. Negligence shown by the defendant have led to several injuries to the plaintiff's horses, including an episode of laminitis, injuries to the neck and legs of several horses who escaped due to defective locks they installed, and severe thrush to 5 horses caused by water damage, incorrect leveling and construction of the barn. Mr. Blank has laughed at the injuries and has had ample time and opportunity to fix the issues to prevent further injuries. His actions shown a total lack of concern for the animals and are the definition of animal cruelty. Well, I don't think he was trying to cause animals to get hurt. If he was negligent, he did, but I don't know that that would have been his. I don't think that he was purposely doing it. Like, haha, I'll get these horses. Demand for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff demands judgment against defendant, and each of them, if applicable, for the following dollar, interest, costs, and expense incurred herein, or non-monetary remedy, including reasonable attorney's fees, and for such other and further relief as the court deem just and proper. $150,000. The defendant admitted fault when agreeing to pay back the full amount to the plaintiff. The rest of the damages are cost of materials and labor needed to fix this workmanship, as well as supplemental expenses paid by the defendant for vet bills and conservative estimate of loss of income of the sales business, which has been unable to operate to capacity since defendant's involvement with the plaintiff. Emotional damages are very conservative. The plaintiff's business, Quartet Farms, was not able to operate during the time the defendant was working on the property. The plaintiff has had as many as 13 horses for sale or lease at any given time since it began in 2014. During construction, therefore, there were no facilities available to horse or train horses. There's no opportunity to accumulate more horses to sell. Mr. Blank left the project dangerous to animals, and only one horse could be kept for sales purpose from the property was purchased through September 27th, 2020 to 2021. I don't know. That's a weird date. The property was bought specifically to expand the operations. The average price of a horse sold by Quartet Farms is $50,000, with the highest being $125,000. Well, earlier she said $150,000, so I don't know. Given that the goal of the company is to sell one horse per month, the potential loss of income is about $50,000 per month or $2,500,000 during the time that the defendant was supposedly completing work. Yeah, because it went on months, not days, not weeks. 3, the negligence shown by Sean and his crew have led to several injuries to the plaintiff's horses, including an episode of laminitis, injuries to the neck and legs of several horses, and severe thrush to 5 horses caused by water damage, incorrect leveling and construction of the barn, and others detailed in Claim 9. The plaintiff still has tens of thousands of dollars in repairs to make due to the negligent construction. It will go on for several months, if not a year or more, resulting in further loss of income from sales of horses as well as potential injuries. Knowing the plaintiff was in treatment for epilepsy and depression. Okay, this, as well as her father being treated for cancer, had Parkinson's disease for 21 years, and had an upcoming surgery for a heart valve repair. The defendant took advantage of the situation with no compassion for other stresses in the Owens family's lives. The businesses that you contract, they don't have to give a crap about what's going on in your family's personal lives. If you hire them for a job, they say they're going to do a job, they need to do the job. But they don't even need to know about all that stuff going on in y'all's lives. Like, oh, poor me, our family is so sad. Many families are. We don't get to just go to court and use that. I don't have a problem with her complaining about work that wasn't done at all or wasn't done correctly or that it caused injuries and things like that. I have no problem with her complaining about that. But do not bring in your sob story into this. This has nothing to do with that. That part irks the crap out of me. The defendant also lied several times about his own personal situations to gain sympathy, including saying that he had children. He did not. And they were both in treatment for cancer when his repayment was due. Okay, so he said he had kids that had cancer and those kids didn't exist, and so therefore the cancer didn't exist. Well, y'all got something in common. Y'all both have imaginary children. The defendant was aware that in order to make this project work, a loan would need to be taken out. He showed no concern for taking money that he knew he was not owed from a family that was dealing with serious health issues. That is not his job to worry about that. It doesn't matter to a person coming to do a job whether you had to take a loan out for this or you had your own money to do so. That's not his problem. That's your problem. Now, if he really didn't do the work and he really did such a sloppy job, that's one thing, and that sucks, and people shouldn't do that. That's why you're allowed to go to civil court, so that you can hopefully get those things back, and that can fix your loan money problems that you took out. But it doesn't matter about why. People do not care how you're going to pay, as long as you are going to pay. This sob story needs to just completely be cut out. The defendant was grossly negligent in that he had several opportunities to fix his poor work and chose not to. His actions were intended to cause harm. I don't think it was intended to, as he laughed at horses escaping from this poorly constructed stalls, saying it was like they were playing musical chairs escaping. He said this with no concern for the health and welfare of the animals, not for the plaintiff's business. We're going to see if we see this in context, because, maybe he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that they're playing musical chairs and escaping. Like, we'll get right on this. So we'll see. Maybe this stuff, there is tons of exhibits. I haven't looked at them. I just put them into the slides to make the video. But we'll see if this stuff gets brought up, because I want to see this stuff. Like, I want to see the context. We know sometimes she likes to get rid of the context around things. So we'll see what we think as we continue. 7. The defendant has acknowledged a poor job already by writing a promissory note to refund $33,447.57. Therefore, has already acknowledged that every piece of his work was not done correctly. The damages placed on top are extremely conservative. The emotional distress that this has caused cannot be put into words. Every day there seems to be a new problem that arises with Sean's poor workmanship. And that sucks. Like, because you hire somebody because they're supposed to do the job and they know how to do the job. Because if you wanted all the headache, you would have just done it yourself, right? And so it's supposed to take some stress off of you, not bring stress to you. So that does suck if you come and you're like, oh my God, this has been such a nightmare and a headache. I can feel for them in that way. I don't care about the other stuff. On September 27th, 2021, Blank, the North American representative of Stable Comfort Mats, reviewed current photos of the system. He was shocked that there were divots and ridges on the ground and said had not seen that in his 20 plus years as one of the country's top stable flooring experts. Mr. Blank explained how Mr. Blank was generally unavailable, and on a few occasions he spoke with him, did not attempt to follow his instructions for installation. He explained that they were installed places more of a risk to the horses than benefit and puts them high risk of soft tissue injury, which that is not good for the horses. That would stink. This explains the stiffness exhibited by Blank LLC horses, especially that of Sirocco 91. And we know Sirocco is a very important horse for her. She rode that during one of her pregnancies with the men, who has needed back, hock, footlock, and coffin injections since he arrived at the facility in April of 2021. Sirocco 91 is the competition horse for Miss Owens, I'm guessing, and a long-term investment for Quartet Farms, LLC. Yeah, Sirocco was definitely Owens' horse. He was named the best equation horse at the USET Equation Finals in 2018, which is top honor as an equation horse can receive in this country. A National Equation Finals winner can sell up for $1 million. Mr. Blank said that a horse like Sirocco 91, comfortable, the entire system will need to be torn and redone. The cost to do this is $27,000. Similar recommendations were made for the arena, which was completed by Mr. Blank, who had no experience constructing top hunter and jumper arenas despite his initial claims. The foundation base that was installed by him was not leveled and is deep as 4 inches on parts of the ring, while as shallow as a half inch in others. It should be 2.5 to 3 inches throughout with no unevenness. The price to fix this work, meaning removing the footing, redoing the base, placing new Trutex footing, purchase the correct type of sand. The wrong type was purchased by Mr. Blank, and arena clean is approximately $65,000. And so this was signed by the plaintiff or the plaintiff's attorney on September 27, 2021. So we're going to go over, I believe, one more thing, but if you have experience in horse facilities and things like that, let us know down in the comments. Like, as of now, before we jump in and see anything, does what she is saying sound, does it ring true to you? Do you understand what she's talking about? Because I don't know if this stuff is supposed to be done like this or not done like this. They know about horses. So I'm going to say this is probably not the way it should go. But I don't know. But if you know about any of this Trutex or Arena Clean and things like that, before we get into exhibits and things, let us know what you think of this initial thing in the comments below. Or share it to somebody that maybe does know, if you know somebody who knows about it, because the more knowledge that we have on things like this, the better, because we can understand more where either Owens is coming from or where the construction guy is coming from. And so that will give us a more roundabout view. So the last document was sent in September of 2021. Now we are in December 14th of 2021, and the Superior Court of Arizona, Maricopa County, the Honorable Sarah Agnew, so that's the judge in the Owens v. Lone Cactus Construction and Sean of Scottsdale, Arizona. This minute entry, the court has received and reviewed the motion to compel due to animal safety at risk and for sanctions filed December 8th, 2021. This appears to be a discovery dispute, and thus the court requires strict compliance with Arizona Rules of Civil Procedure 26D to resolve such disputes. Therefore, it is ordered denying the motion to compel and for sanctions without prejudice to the parties submitting a Rule 26D joint statement of discovery disputes. So it's without prejudice, so they can file for these sanctions again if need be. It is further ordered that the parties shall comply with Rules 16B and C, Arizona Rules of Civil Procedure, by e-filing a joint report and lodging with its proposed scheduling order no later than December 23rd, 2021, as the courts previously ordered that they do so was not obeyed. So these two or their attorneys need to issue a joint thing of stuff, and this is discovery issues. So there's a lot of not complying, maybe from both parties. These two are at odds together. Most people with dealing with Owens are usually at odds with somebody. But that is going to be it for this video, and we will be jumping in to more stuff and learning more about this case in the next few parts that we have. Like this video, hit subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I will see you next time. Bye.